in order to get myself onto the Rebel track, I had to read a space opera by a diverse author with a diverse protagonist and or supporting characters. And at this point, I have not done that. So in comes Babel 17 by Samuel R. Delany. And this was a book that I didn't think I was going to be able to get my hands on because it wasn't available in print in my library, and it also was not available on any of the library e-services and as an ebook. Lo and behold, it ended up being available as an audiobook. So I read that as my challenge, my start on the Federation track. And Babel 17 was a confusing piece of work for me. I didn't really enjoy it per se. I liked some parts of it, and I really think reading Babel 17 helped me get a better understanding or appreciation for stories of your life, or the story of your life, which is the title story in the compilation, the short story collection by Ted Chiang. And it has to do with the effect of language and the purpose of language in Babel 17. And it takes place with a character who is a linguist, poet. And what I really enjoyed about the story is the dynamics of the crew that she develops as she's on this mission to understand and interpret Babel 17 and the effect that it has, or the purpose that it has in these disasters that are taking place in the story. I really liked how they went about building her crew for her spaceship, and the attributes, how the attributes of each crew member, what stood out to her for them, or what they specialized in, that was a skill that seemed completely opposite of what would be needed to run a spaceship, but how those attributes, my mental thesaurus is broken, worked to help them perform the tasks that needed to be set for them to operate the spaceship. I also enjoyed a little bit of some of the space battle that took place in this story, but all in all, the actual purpose of Babel 17 and how you come around to understanding what's going on surrounding Babel 17 with the characters in this story, I didn't get it right away. I had to rewind and listen to again some parts because I wasn't getting it. And the good thing about this is that I've read it as an audiobook as opposed to reading it in print. If I had picked this up in print, I probably would not have finished it, or I just would have, if I finished it, rested in my confusion as opposed to really trying to come to some kind of understanding of what was going on. So that was a dud. But that dud put me on the Rebel track, unlocked the Blockade Runner, and because I have read 3 books at this point, I'm a Rebel leader. So that was my plan as far as my top title to get to. But I also, at the point when I was reading that, was reading Dune by Frank Herbert. And Dune was a reading experience. First and foremost, spice melange will always be a phrase that I want to use when I talk about a mixture of spices. Because I just like saying spice melange. I had a very interesting reading experience for me, but then in talking to some other people, their experiences were a little similar. For the first maybe 400 pages of this book, while I was enjoying reading it, when I stopped reading it, I wasn't pressed about getting back to it. I did go back to it because this was a huge part of my challenges for Space Opera September. So it was never a question as to whether or not I was going to finish it. But it wasn't until around the 500 something page mark that I got to being so involved and interested in the story that I couldn't wait to get back to it, to see what happens next. Having said that, that's why I don't like DNFing books. The few books that I have DNF'd, I have DNF'd like 75% of the way through, because I'm always waiting for that little bit that's going to be like, ooh, all of this is good. Like, this is just okay. Oh shit, this is good. I'm always waiting for that. And there was the feeling of, oh shit, this is good, while I was even reading the first 500 something pages of the book. I just wasn't excited about getting back to it when I put it down. This story, if you're not familiar with Dune, if you know nothing about Dune other than the fact that there's a shit ton of sand in the story, which is literally all I knew about all I knew about the book, and that it's thick as hell. It is really a story about changes in power and all of the politicking and the scheming that goes on behind the scenes in this monarchy that has been set up in this world that Frank Herbert has created. That's really what this is about. And the outcast who are attempting to make a stand for their survival, for what they feel is their home, and being strong in that and overtaking those who are coming to attempt to, I don't want to say colonize, but to make their planet, the planet that belongs to them, the planet that belongs to and fits someone else more than it fits them, that fits the monarchy more than it fits the Fremen, who are the people who are from and have been living on Dune for centuries, for generations. That's a better term. And I really enjoyed that. I had some issues, and it has nothing to do with the actual storytelling, but just my own thoughts. I had some issues with like the changes in the main character as he goes along this trail and track of becoming this elevated person. I'm trying not to tell too much information, but becoming this elevated type person that the Fremen are looking for, as well as being on the track of fulfilling his lineage of being a duke, becoming a duke. And there's so much to this with, I mean, there were times where I read a part or a section in the story and I remembered that this was mentioned like 200 pages ago, and so I would flip back and then like put a little sticky note in there, because this isn't my book, I borrowed this from Stephanie, but put a little sticky note in there to remind myself that this was mentioned before and this is this coming back. So somebody's perceptions about these people, these things, were wrong. And I just really enjoyed this story. I'm really surprised how much I like this. After reading this, I said I wanted to read the next book, and I never thought that after reading this thick ass novel, mind you, it's only, in this edition, the novel's only 794 pages long. This is all appendix information about Dune. It's an afterword by Frank Herbert's son. Some of the terminology that is used in Dune, which I did not refer to as I was reading. I wish more people, when they wrote books like this, where the names are different, that like authors have in their mind how they want these names to sound. I wish that they would include that like an IPA in the back of the book, so that I can look at the phonetic spellings of the words and how it's supposed to be sounded out, to create in my brain what the author wanted. But that doesn't happen. Anyway, having said that, after I finish this, I am going to read the next book, which I think is Dune Messiah. And then the third book is Children of Dune. And we'll see how I feel about it after finishing Dune Messiah, whether or not I'm going to read Children of Dune. But yeah, I really enjoyed this. And it's written so nicely, but it's written in a way that it feels almost conversational. Like Paul is telling you his story. When you're reading the interactions between the Baron or the Duke or the Emperor and some of the other people in the story, it's like you're watching it unfold. And it's all so interesting in how all of these people work together and the lies that people tell. I really cannot think of anything, even some of the things that are said or done that I didn't necessarily agree with. I can't think of anything that I didn't like about this story. Wow. So yeah, in finishing Dune, refer back to my notebook, that cleared me for challenge 3, which was to read a space opera published before you were born, and challenge 4, which was read a space opera 500 pages or larger. So that unlocked the Explorer ship for challenge 3 and the Dreadnought, which was the ship I wanted for challenge 4. Now, mind you, I could have read a tome that was published after I was born and still gotten the Dreadnought ship. But in reading 4 books by this point, because I've read Dune, All Systems Red, 6 Weeks, and Babel 17. By reading 4 books, I became a space pirate, and I was so excited because I didn't think that I was going to finish 4 books. I thought I was going to read Dune, that 794-page book, and 2 other books if I was lucky, which is why I said I would have been happy being a privateer or a rebel leader. I did not think I was going to reach space pirate status. So once I got space pirate status, I started feeling myself. And I said, there are literally 3 days left in September. You can pick up the other book that you were going to read that would have put you on challenge 2B. And you can see how far you get in that, because even if you don't finish it, you're already a fucking pirate. What's gonna happen? Not a damn thing. But y'all know what? I finished that shit. And that was After the Crown by KB Wagers. KB is a non-binary author. So yeah, this was the 5th book that I read for Space Opera September. Totally didn't think it was going to happen. It's the 2nd book in the Andronin War series. Totally didn't think that I was going to like the sequel. I was wrong. Absolutely wrong. I wish I had already bought book 3 so that I could go ahead and finish out the series, but I haven't. I'm going to remedy that and get it. If you have not read the first book, which was Behind the Throne, pick it up. This is like Star Wars where Leia kicks ass. It's awesome. And there are so many more characters that are brought into this story, so many more different characters that are brought into the story in this book than what you had before, and the scope of the fight that's going on gets so much larger than it did before. Yeah, I wish that there were more battle scenes that were shared or in the story, and that may happen in book 3, who knows. But I wish there were more battle scenes in this story, because I really like space battle scenes. And there weren't that many in this story in the series, but thoroughly enjoyed this. So yeah, that is everything that I read for Space Opera September. If this video was broken up, I had to do it because it got too fucking long when I started editing it. But did you participate in Space Opera September? Did you get to read anything for Space Opera September? If you finished, if you didn't finish, did you participate in any way, shape, or form? I cannot wait for this to happen next year. Thomas, please do this again in 2020. And I am going to do a lot of research, because again, I don't read a lot of space operas. So I've read 5, 6, 7 with the 2 that I've read before. So I am going to do more research into the space opera genre to try and build the list and see what the challenges are that he creates for next year. I am super duper excited. I'm so glad that I participated. I'm going to go. I am hungry. Thank you all for watching, and I hope you have a good weekend whenever you see this video. Peace out.